Bring up my let me bring up my screen here for everybody.
Okay, you can try it now.
Okay. Okay, should be good. All right. So, welcome everyone. I hope everyone's as energized today as I was the other day when I was able to watch baseball again. It's really exciting. As things opened up, so do opportunities. And this is one of those things that we want to talk to you about, our future opportunities with the federal government. My name again is Brad Hancher. I'm the Regional Administrator for the Great Lakes region of the General Services Administration. I'm also joined here by my friend, Gene Brown, who is the Director for the Federal Executive Board, which basically is a collaborative board for all the federal leaders that we have here in the Midwest. But suffice to say, I'm here to talk to you about careers not just with GSA, but also with the federal government. And I'm going to start off by letting you see just who our leadership is. Our administrator, and I'll touch on this in a little bit, our leader is Emily Murphy. You can see myself there, Brad Hancher. And then I'm going to touch on two of the main branches of our business, which are our PBS, or Public Billing Services, and our Federal Acquisition Services, which are led by Kim Brown and John Cook, respectively, here in Chicago. So I thought I'd just start off right from the get-go and let you know that when it comes to GSA, we're looking for people with a positive attitude, people who are results-driven. These are just some of the examples that you see listed in front of you. Just your mere presence here is one of those traits. We're looking for people that are go-getters, that are going to be proactive and understand that you know, we got it to move forward in life. You got to put forth effort, and just your presence here today represents just that. But we have people from all different types of backgrounds, a variety of technical, social, and academic skills. We look for people who have the right blend of humor, energy, team spirit, self-confidence, flexibility. Again, motivated self-starters such as yourselves that are able to deal with change, show lots of initiative, and again, show a positive attitude and a seriousness towards their future. One key phrase that keeps coming up over and over again when people ask about what do you truly look for at GSA, it comes back to we believe that what people know is less important than who they are. It's not necessarily about finding people with the right experience. It's about finding people who just simply have the right stuff. And I also want to point out is that this is about public service when we're talking about federal agencies. It's not about politics. The federal government exists to help our country function, and it's completely besides the politics that are out there. It's public service. It's doing things for the greater good. So in this session, we'll just touch on who the GSA is, why we believe you'd want to work for the General Services Administration, and then we'll touch on the compensation and benefits package, and a little bit of what's involved with the hiring process. And again, as Jaime mentioned, we'll have some questions and hopefully some answers that you'll want to hear towards the end. So to start out, the GSA fits into the federal government under the executive branch. For those who are not familiar, we've got three branches of government. We've got the judicial that has the Supreme Court and the federal court system, the Court of Appeals and the district courts. And then we have the legislative side of things, which is Congress, composed of the House and the Senate. GSA, again, falls under the executive, which is run by whomever is president. And the president actually appoints the leader of the agencies that fall under the executive board. And as I mentioned earlier, or I showed earlier, Emily Murphy is the administrator, and the administrator acts as kind of a CEO of our organization. There are several other agencies that fall underneath the executive branch, such as the Treasury, Department of Defense, Education, and several other agencies. And though we fall underneath the executive branch, we are still considered independent, similar to NASA, EPA, and the SSA. As you can see in this next slide, we're based out of DC. We have 11 regional offices. The Chicago office here helps to oversee the Great Lakes region. So it's comprised of 5 states: Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, and Michigan. I have no doubt that many of you probably had to Google who we were before this, and that's okay. We're happy about completing our mission without any fanfare, remaining less well known than other agencies such as the FBI, the CIA. However, that also presents us with a little bit of a challenge in securing talent, which is part of the reason why we're here today. The GSA is often described as the government's landlord and business manager. It was established July 1st of 1949, and our mission is to, quote, deliver value and savings in real estate, acquisition, technology, and other mission support government services all across the government. Just to give you an idea of the size and the impact of our operations, if GSA were a publicly traded company, we would rank in the top 4. Countless career paths. So as you can see here on the lower right-hand corner, financial managers, accountants, contract specialists, architects and engineers, specialists in security, again, going into technology, and I'll touch on it a little bit. We are the technological hub of the federal government. But there are countless ways to find a career path with the General Services Administration. Nationwide, the GSA employs 12,000 federal workers, and we have an annual operating budget of roughly $20 billion. The agency oversees $54 billion worth of procurements, a motor pool of 215,000 vehicles, and we contribute to the management of over 300 million square feet of real estate that's valued at an estimated $500 billion. Here in the Great Lakes region, I help to oversee a staff of nearly 900 employees, and we're responsible for approximately 35 million square feet scattered across 1,000 owned and leased spaces here in the Midwest. We also operate roughly 17,000 motor vehicles and conduct roughly $3.5 billion worth of procurement activities. So in addition to several staff offices, as you see listed here at the bottom of the screen, GSA, as I mentioned earlier, we have 2 primary business lines. It's the Public Building Service and the Federal Acquisition Services. Basically, when it comes to anything related to federal real estate, and we're talking about construction, design, disposal of buildings, leasing of federal space, as well as the preservation of historic properties, that's PBS. FAST, on the other hand, is a one-stop shop for agencies to pretty much procure anything they need to carry out their mission. And that includes any supplies, services, and or products. If it's something that's available in the public, FAS can secure it more than likely. The one area that we stay away from is weapons. We leave that to the armed forces. But I can tell you that FAST has in the past, and I believe they still currently do, provide the Defense Department with dog food to feed some of their bomb-sniffing dogs. But suffice to say, the Federal Acquisition Services is representative of not only the size of the government, but the power as well. Because of the fact that the government is so large, we're able to take advantage of our size to negotiate contracts on behalf of our client agencies to get them the best deals possible for those supplies, products, and services. I do also want to note here that one of our staff offices is the Office of Small Disadvantaged Business Utilization, and it's known as OSDBU. And it plays a key role in advocating for small, minority, veteran, and women-owned businesses in order to increase their access to compete for government contracts. GSA focuses every single year on ensuring that a large portion of our contracts are awarded to small businesses like these. So a few other fun facts about what we do. We oversee the Presidential Transition Support Team. Yeah, for any scenario, if there's a change in administration, GSA is there to set up the office space, charter jets, and set up everyone in the office with their IT equipment. Likewise, if there's a president that's transitioning out, we help them with all the logistics revolving around that, and we stay in touch with them from then on out, helping to manage their pension, their office space, their IT equipment as well, and staff that they might have. GSA also has our TTS, which is our Technology Transformation Services. Its sole function is to improve the public's experience with the government. Basically, they help the agencies build, buy, and share technology. These include platforms and software solutions that allow them to make their services more accessible, efficient, and effective in serving all the taxpayers. When federal employees travel, it's GSA who sets up all the contracts for credit cards, for lodging, for making flight reservations. GSA also disposes of federal properties and personal property and equipment in ways that benefit taxpayers. We can donate properties, and if we're unable to donate them, we'll also try to see if there's opportunities to sell them to the private sector. I was just thinking about this example of personal property the other day, how many of you may or may not be familiar, but a long time ago, maybe not too long ago, for people like Jaime and I, there was a gentleman who was seriously disturbed, and his name was Ted Kaczynski, who was known as the Unabomber. And when he was arrested, the government took possession of all of his personal property. And at one point, the federal government had to get rid of it. And GSA was a part of that process of putting those items up for sale or auction, if you will. And people might, who are familiar with this gentleman, he was known for a trademark hoodie. And go figure, the federal government put that hoodie up for auction and someone purchased it. But you can also purchase used Humvees. I mean, it's absolutely incredible. Anything you can possibly think of that the government has used, we will put that up for sale once we've decided to try out something different. And then also I'd want to mention is that when we do upgrade our technology, we'll take like computers that we no longer use, and we will donate those to public schools. So it's a lot of information. I completely understand that you're still digesting everything that I've said. But moving on, hearing all that, you're probably wondering, well, how are we funded? And the interesting thing is about GSA is that for the most part, we're self-funded. We do have a portion of our budget every single year that is allocated for special projects. But for the most part, what happens is we collect funds, our funds, through the rent that we collect, as well as fees that we charge for the services that we supply to our federal clients. And what happens is that money goes to Congress, and then Congress every year decides how much they're going to allocate back to GSA for the following year. It's really amazing to point out that of all that money that's allocated every single year, roughly 5% of that actually goes towards paying for salaries and benefits. So the lion's share goes towards making sure that we're able to accomplish our mission. Okay, so now you have an idea about who we are. Let me talk a little bit about why you'd want to come and work for us. As the leader of the region, I've had the privilege of interacting with and meeting, I can't tell you how many people, countless numbers of people, not just across GSA, but across the government. And these are individuals who are just starting out their career, might be mid-career, or who have been working for 30 years and approaching retirement. And I can say if there's one overarching theme that you can see throughout each of these individuals who I've met, at least, is that they truly enjoy their work. They truly enjoy serving and giving back. And I personally don't know so many other people that are very passionate about what they're doing in the private sector. Not to say that there aren't those that are out there, but really when you look at everyone who's working with the federal government, there is this passion that's there, knowing that you're doing an altruistic thing, helping out millions and millions of people, because your work impacts the agencies that serve those people. And I want to point out that while I'm talking to you here about GSA, I am as well talking to you about federal government careers, where all the agencies value talent. And if we can find talent and it will work for one agency versus another, we're all collectively glad to contribute to helping those individuals find those opportunities. And I want to make that distinction. As many of our staff started out coming from the Peace Corps, or coming from another agency, coming over from NASA, the Department of Homeland Security, or HUD. Their career paths just simply happened to lead them, and their interests happened to lead them to GSA. Additionally, I also want to point out that I've met a lot of people who work for GSA who at one point left, but they came back. And so it makes you think, why would someone want to come back after they've already left? And it really comes down to just a couple things, I believe. One of them is the benefits, which include our work environment, our competitive pay structure and career paths, our culture, which promotes career growth while taking into account a work-life balance, as well as the knowledge, again, that what we do impacts the lives of millions by helping these agencies accomplish their mission. So when it comes to working at GSA, as you can see from some of these pictures, we're at the forefront of trying to make workspace not only functional, but also enjoyable. We've done away with all the high barriers that you'll see with these dividers, and we allow a lot more natural light to come in. We've got these really cool workstations that are all set up. Everybody gets a laptop. Again, we're at the forefront of technology. And we also allow for people to take advantage of everything in the G Suite. If you're familiar with Google, everything and anything allows us to collaborate very easily with everybody else on our teams. So, so laptops. So part of the reason why everyone gets a laptop is because GSA is and has been at the forefront of demonstrating how the federal government can work remotely. And what we can do is we allow for employees, depending on what you do, to work from home 3, 4, sometimes 5 days a week. And this kind of folds into the importance of a work-life balance that GSA truly believes in. And we'll touch on this more during the question and answer session. But at other agencies, you may not be able to do it, but here you absolutely can, with a few rare exceptions. And it doesn't stop there. Again, there's plenty of advantages when you come and work for the General Services Administration. And I'm going to touch on the fact that, well, I guess this would go along with a lot of other federal agencies. You get the paid holidays. You can acquire a substantial amount of sick leave and vacation time. I'll be frank. It is pretty incredible when you start to work for the federal government and you look at the amount of vacation time and sick time that you're able to accrue right from the get-go, as opposed to when you start off at a company and the first thing they're telling you is you get 10 days and that's it for your first year. And then maybe incrementally after several years, you'll be able to add a couple hours to it. Now here, right from the get-go, we're trying to make sure that we're able to give you that flexibility. A 40-hour work week. Now, I like to touch on this simply because of the fact that we try to adhere to the 40-hour work week for that work-life balance. Taxpayers are paying for our employees to work for 40 hours a week. Anything above and beyond that is something that needs special approval, because again, we're spending taxpayer money when that happens. I also want to touch on the alternate work schedule, the AWS. So if you want to, in most cases, work longer days, you can do that and then get every other Friday off. So again, we try to be as flexible as possible to make it appealing for people to want to work for the General Services Administration. So why don't we talk a little bit about our comprehensive benefits package. When it comes to health benefits and retirement benefits, we'll throw in the transit that's mentioned here. You're going to find it very, very difficult. You're going to be hard pressed to find something in the private sector that competes with what we can offer. And even maybe a handful of states and local governments can compete, but I don't think they really come close to what we can offer, including the ability to choose from a different health plan every single year. I believe that the biggest advantage of the program is that once you retire, and this is really important for those that are just starting out their careers, once you retire, you get to keep your health insurance. And as you move along your career, if you don't value it just yet, you can talk to those who are already mid-career or who are approaching their end of their career. They will stress the importance of these health benefits and how they match up in importance with your salary, if not becoming more important than that in the long term. GSA also offers a retirement program, and it's similar to like a 401k. It'll match up to 5%, and automatically, regardless of whether or not you contribute to it, the government's going to contribute 1% of your salary every single year. And you do have an option as well to change that to a Roth. And that's known as our TSP, our thrift savings plan. One more thing is transit benefits. Up to $200, sometimes slightly more. We'll provide our employees to make it easier for them to utilize the public transportation system to get back and forth to work. So I'm sure many of you are curious about the salary and about the career paths that you could have with the General Services Administration. I just want to point out that we are set up in a way where you can nearly double your salary within 3 years. And most companies are not able to offer this opportunity. Some may say to you, oh, here's your career path. This is what we see is going to happen. But that's not a guarantee. That's not even close to being a guarantee. We're in that area where we can say, if you start off at a certain pay scale, at a certain grade, every single year, you're going to get automatic pay increases. It's guaranteed. And after a certain amount of time, as you can see here, say that you start off as a GS 1, 2, 3, or 4, after 52 weeks, you can immediately start applying for those positions that are at the next level. Sometimes also Congress will approve additional increases in salary as well. Let's see here. Let's skip that. We'll go on to this. Okay. What can you expect when you come to work for GSA? Our employees are hands-on from day one. We stress the importance of knowing that your career in the long term is in our best interest. So we're going to do whatever we possibly can to support that. We will make sure that you are able to move forward in your career. And part of that is represented in the countless number of training courses that we offer, shadowing opportunities. And within the federal government, there's also a program that we refer to as detailing. And what that means is you decide, well, you've got interest in a different department in your agency, or you've got interest in a whole nother department in a different agency. We'll allow you to go and spend several weeks learning about that agency or that position. And you'll still continue to be paid what your salary normally is. And your job will still be there when you get back. I want to stress opportunities like this as something that you're really not going to find in the private sector. We want to make sure that any talent that we do get with the federal government is in the right position to succeed. And that's something we'll also touch on a little later on, where the important thing is find something that fits with you and apply. And if you get in, that is the most important thing. Once you have your foot in the door, the possibilities you'll see are just absolutely endless. Obviously, if you apply with GSA, we want to make sure that you would stay with us. But if you find something that you feel is a better fit for you, we will fully support that, as any other agency would support you looking for your right place with the federal government. So another way to get involved from the get-go is, our internships. GSA has our Emerging Leaders Program, which is the ELP, and that helps to facilitate your transition into a professional career. And you can choose from a variety of career tracks. That's all listed out here: program analyst, financial management, building management specialist, project management. Again, the possibilities with GSA, because we are all over the place when it comes to career paths, are absolutely limitless. We also have a Pathways program, which is run by our Office of Personnel Management. And it consists of 3 separate programs. Whether you have a bachelor's degree, a master's, professional doctorate, vocational, technical degree, or a certificate in the past 2 years, just about any academic background, we can try to find an on-ramp for you if you qualify. I just wanted to show you an example of just one position, just arbitrarily picked out, program analyst. And the important thing here is not specifically what the job entails. It's really pointing out that GSA, given the fact that we deal with all these agencies, all the agencies are our clients, and we provide them with their space. We provide them with their services and assist them in any way to carrying out their mission. That actually presents opportunities for everyone on our team to learn about those agencies, to build up relationships. And again, that leads to the idea of, if you find something of interest, you can actually look into that a little bit more. And if need be, you can do a detail, or again, look for another position. But again, when it comes to GSA, we hope that you would stay with us. So again, these are the type of traits that we're looking for when it comes to members of our team. You've already demonstrated that by attending with us today. And really, when it comes down to it, the most important thing for you to do is to first, after this, jump on to usajobs.gov and go ahead and start uploading your resume. And you can upload up to 5 resumes. And I'm going to quickly touch on a little bit of our hiring process, and to give you a little bit of advice when it comes to submitting your resumes. So when you do apply at usajobs.gov, you can put up to 5 resumes, and it's very, very important that you do that, because any position that you apply for, you want to make sure that that position is tailor fit to your resume, and your resume is therefore tailor fit to that position. Some writing tips that have been offered by our Office of Personnel Management I have here for you. And they stress certain things like highlight the relevant experience in education, explain what you did and how you made a difference. Did you leave the job better than you found it before? You're wanting to highlight your accomplishments. When it comes to federal resumes, it's a completely different ballgame. As you're probably aware, with the private sector, they want things short, concise, keep it to 1 page. That's not the case with the federal government. We want you, again, to explain exactly what your accomplishments are. And you're going to do that by looking at what are the requirements for that job and then matching that up with your experience. There's two typical formats when it comes to resumes, as many of you already know, a functional and the reverse chronological. The reverse chronological, which is more well known, is the preferable one that you're going to want to use when applying for the government. So again, the hiring officials want to see immediate results. You want to utilize clear examples of your accomplishments and indicate, those unique reasons as to why you should be interviewed compared to somebody else. Ineffective resumes. Just to highlight a couple, do not clearly show results and accomplishments, contain spelling and grammatical errors. That is absolutely huge. I know for some people, they don't want to look any further for an applicant if they see any type of grammatical errors or spelling mistakes. Because as far as they're concerned, then you're not really putting forth the effort to truly want this position. Again, effective resumes, flawless regardless of the flawless with regard to your spelling and your grammar, and provide agencies with the necessary info required to make you qualify. And that goes again back to, I can't stress enough, when you look at a job description, it's going to list exactly what they're looking for. You need to demonstrate that in your resume. And again, any of those 5 resumes, just make sure you're meeting those requirements. Because if you're not meeting those requirements, it'll end up getting kicked out and they'll go on to another resume. And here's what I was just talking about. Just make sure that you break down the requirements and you understand them and are able to address them. Resume summaries, you'll see those at the top of resumes sometimes. It's optional. It's not going to make a difference either way, but if you do it, keep it brief. And cover letters, the same thing. Optional, it's not going to make or break, but in some cases, if you think that there's something truly unique about your application, there's absolutely no harm in trying to highlight that. Once you do submit your application, you'll receive the notification that we've received it. Our agencies or the agency that you apply to is going to review it. They may ask you to conduct some type of assessment test, and then they'll take all the qualified candidates, they'll rank them, and then they may start to reach out and schedule interviews, regardless of whether or not you're scheduled for an interview or you're not chosen for a job or chosen. Unlike many places in the private sector, the federal government is still going to stay in contact with you and keep you abreast. And as you can probably imagine, working for the government, in a lot of cases, they will require a background check and a security clearance. So here's some contact information for Price, who is our recruiter. He can help answer any questions that you may not have received here today, or from our question and answer session that's coming up next. But with that said, I'd like to, I guess, open up the floor to questions. Feel free to unmute your mics, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Or you can type in your question in the chat too. And I just wanted to mention, some of you may have read in the chat that I put in the first bomb was found at UIC. That was in reference to Brad mentioning the Ted Kaczynski, the Unabomber. For those of you who know your history, if you're a criminal justice major, the first bomb was accidentally sent to UIC. So a little bit of history there for those of you that are familiar with that case. But yes, if you have some questions now, please feel free to ask them at this time.
Thank you, Adam.
I just want to take a moment and introduce myself. So I'm Jean Brown. I'm with the Federal Executive Board. We work with all the agencies, and I work very closely with Jaime on coordinating these events. Shannon Bailey, our deputy, is also on this call today. And so we'll be doing other events like these with other agencies. But I've been in the federal government for 20 years, and I just want to focus on something Brad said earlier, which is that we are this continuity that goes on and on in between multiple presidencies. So you really do have to be bipartisan to have these jobs and to just care about the mission. And the other thing is it's a large, Brad mentioned how national it is. You know, I started my federal career actually at the U.S. Embassy in South Korea. I had all these great adventures and great travel in my 20s, but when I wanted to settle down and have a family, I was able to do that here. It's one of these few large institutions that's left where you can have a 30, 40-year career. Those just there are not many of those left. So I've really enjoyed that. The federal career has given me adventure when I wanted it. It's given me stability for my family when I've needed it. And it was a really good choice. And when you're looking at where you want to go, you shouldn't just be looking at the salary. Make sure you're looking at the mission of the place you're going to, and make sure you talk to people who work there. How long have they been there? Why do people leave? You know, look at the arc of your life and what you want for yourself when you're looking for where you want to go. And I hope you consider the federal family, because GSA is a great on-ramp into the federal community, but we have many other jobs in the federal sphere, and we'll be telling you about those in the next few months.
And just to touch on that, I mentioned how I've met a lot of people, and I've been with the government for only 3 years, but I've met a lot of people who left GSA and came back. And they came back because they could not find that work-life balance. No matter what salary was out there that maybe paid them another couple of grand more a month, it wasn't worth the work-life balance that they were sacrificing, and they ended up coming back. Not to mention, they came back because of the fact that the federal government, unlike a lot of other places in the private sector, has these retirement programs, including a pension.
Okay, so we have a few questions in the chat. First one is, would you say there is a need for graphic designers?
Yes, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Across government, yeah.
Yeah, with GSA right now, I believe we have approximately 73, 74, 75 positions all across the nation that are up there. But to Gene's point, all across government, when you've got math skills, when you've got technology skills, things of that nature, the possibilities are limitless.
And specifically to graphic design, we really need people to help tell our story to the public. I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about what the federal government does, especially at the regional level. And one of the best ways to do that is with graphics. So please keep us in mind. And with so many jobs that are telework now, you know, there might be a graphic design job that's in California or Utah or New York or DC, but you might be able to do it from the Midwest.
And is there a minimum requirement amount of time that you have to work in order to receive healthcare benefits?
No, there isn't. But however, as I mentioned, you know, if you retire with GSA, they will continue on with you. And I believe it's at least 10 years that you need to work for GSA before you can retire with the healthcare benefits.
That's right, Brad.
Yep.
You're right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the healthcare benefits are unbelievable. And as somebody who just found out her teenage daughter needs braces, I'm really grateful for that health benefit.
In fact, I'll quickly bring up a story. It was my second day on the job, and an employee at GSA came up to me, and we were talking, and he was just very, very passionate about working for the federal government, working for GSA. He was really proud of it, and he was bragging about the benefits. And he says to me, "Brad, guess me how much my kid cost me." And I was like, well, what do you mean? He said, from the moment we conceived our child to the moment that we took them home from the hospital, guess how much that cost me? I said, how much? He said, $15.
Yeah, it's a deal.
Mm-hmm.
Before I move to the next question, I just want to give a shout out to Adela Robinson, because you had your video on, and I thought that was really cool that like we got to see your face and got to kind of know you a little. So thank you for opening it up. If anyone else wants to turn on their video, it helps me remember your name.
Yeah, and the next question is kind of tied to another one that I saw in the chat. And do you have certain majors degrees that are needed at GSA, and is criminology enough?
So it depends. It depends on what you're applying for. I mean, I've seen for things like project management. Oh, look at all these faces now. You're so happy.
Oh my God, this is like the memory game. Do you remember that, Gene, where you take?
Yeah, look at this. Hi, everybody. So, I mean, some of my best hires have been music majors, art majors. I studied computer science, and now I'm the director of the Federal Executive Board. No one would have imagined that, you know, somebody without a political science degree would be in that job. So I would say, you know, work is changing so rapidly now. And I go back to that slide, Brad, you had as your, it was like your number one slide after the cover slide, which was great. It was just, it wasn't, we need political scientists, we need project managers. It was, we need thinkers. We need adaptable people. We need creative people. You said funny, which I thought, oh, I'm in trouble because no one's ever called me funny. But, you know, we're looking for who you are. And I know one of our fellows, one of our fellows actually was a former barber. And when I heard that, I was like, that's perfect. It's somebody who knows how to talk to people. They're a hard worker. They're used to being on their feet all day. There were like so many things about that that resonated with me for somebody like I would want on my team. So don't be afraid to share all of who you are and all of what you do. I had somebody who was a bartender and they eliminated that from their resume, but it came up in the interview. And I said, you know, you should have put that on your resume too, because it's one of those things that, you know, you have to manage a budget. You have to reconcile at the end of the day. There's other skills that are part of that. So whatever it is, the criminal justice person, I'm assuming that you want to go into either a Department of Justice or like an FBI or DEA kind of job. But, you know, consider GSA because we do a lot of fleet management and other things for them. Sorry, Brad, is there anything else on that you want to add?
Yeah, I touch on you know, the fact that, you know, even though I lead the region, one of those benefits, again, for working for GSA is we've got these really nice offices and you can sit wherever you want. So regardless of what your position is, if you want to sit by a window all day, you can get a window seat. If you want to sit in a conference room all day, you can go ahead and choose to do that. And if you want to sit around the leadership, or the leadership wants to sit around you and you can build relationships, that's the type of collaborative environment, nurturing environment that GSA has. It doesn't matter what your title is. It's just, we're people, we're all working together towards one goal. And that's the way we see it. We're all just people of good character and of talent and of passion. And we're supportive of each other. And that's one of the reasons why I believe that most people get to continue to move forward in their careers, because we treat each other almost like we're family.
The next question I think I can answer too. Can I also refer this information to a friend of mine that is about to graduate next year? Yes, to everyone, please. Anyone you feel is interested, please let them know about these resources. And as Gene mentioned, we're going to be having more of these throughout the year, so look out for that information. Or if you go to UIC, go to the Career Services webpage. If you go to Northeastern, stay in touch with whoever sent you the email, because we do correspond with our counterparts at other universities. The next question is, what age or experience is required when applying for an internship?
So it depends on the internship. The ability to pass a clearance is a big piece, but I think 18 is it for most of them. I think we do allow high school students, but they have to be seniors or incoming college students. I haven't seen anything below 18, but I would look at the internships to be sure of that. But I mean, there's no upper end. We've had people who are, you know, more senior students returning to college after kids or after a first career come back. And so there's no upper limit on those.
Yeah, and I believe that for some of them, they'll require that you've applied within, I guess, 2 years of having received your degree. And if you're a veteran, I believe it's up to 6 years.
And does GSA help pay for a master's degree?
So it depends. So I've seen people get their master's degrees funded at University of Chicago and some other places, but once you're a Fed, you also, all these great opportunities open up. So I got a grant one summer to go to Harvard for a summer. So I took a few weeks off in the summer. It wasn't a few weeks off, it was like 2 months, one summer, and lived in Boston, right? And I got to go to the Naval War College, got a master's from there, went to the Army War College, got a certificate from there. So, I mean, there's opportunities. You might not be paid by GSA, but the Naval War College is free if you can get in. And it's, they love civil servants, and frankly, they love GSA. That's the thing about being on the inside is, you know, everybody who's a Fed knows GSA, because if you need a car or a plane or a, you know, nice federal space, everybody knows who GSA is. So they're very I haven't known anyone who applied to the Naval War College who didn't get in from GSA.
The next one's to you, Brad. Will these slides be available after the presentation?
Let me see about that. Let me see what I can do.
Okay. For someone pursuing something in like forensics as a career, how can GSA help with that?
So I just want to touch on, for the slides, guys, go to USA Jobs. Everything's there. All these, how to set up your resume on USA Jobs, looking at GSA or other agencies, go to USA Jobs or gsa.gov for more information about GSA. If Brad's not able to release the slides, we do need to get permission to release things publicly outside of government sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I'm sorry, for, what was the major again? Jaime?
Forensics.
Forensics. So forensics, there's a few places I would really focus. I mean, so the thing is, a lot of people want to go to FBI and CIA because a lot of movies are made about those two agencies, but there's a lot of peripheral agencies that support them. So IRS CI actually does a lot of white collar crime investigation, DEA, so you could be looking into them. But with GSA, that particular major is difficult, but I mean, you could get into GSA just to help with building your own credibility and federal network. I know people who come in just as an entry level in GSA with the idea that they've got the clearance. And then there's two USA Jobs websites. There's one for the public, that's the one you guys are going through. And then there's another one for federal employees. It is much easier once you get once you're in the federal family, it's really easy to change agencies. It's much harder to get into some certain agencies unless you're coming from another federal agency.
To that point by Jean, what she's saying overall is if you're going to compete for a job, you'd rather be that individual who's already employed by the federal government, regardless of what agency you're at, compared to somebody who's not associated with the federal government applying for that position.
And project management is something you're going to need in any career. So if you could, spend a few years at GSA doing project management and then move on. But for that particular degree, I would really look at IRS criminal investigations, because I know that they're doing a lot of hiring right now.
And you know what, let me also interject it just spurred a thought about, if you go work for the federal government and say you get a job doing, I don't know, asset management, helping us manage our buildings and things of that nature. From everything that I've gathered, the responsibilities that you get are put upon you at a faster rate than you're going to get in the private sector. And that's another reason why some people think, all right, I'm gonna try to get a job with the federal government because I know they're going to prepare me and get me ahead of my peers that are going to be going about the same careers in the private sector. And then I'll be able to kind of leap them and jump back into the private sector and make more money. But again, those are the scenarios where you see the people jump into the private sector and then end up coming right back.
Brad, yeah, that's so well said. Because when I think about the responsibility I was given right out of college, I'm just like, I couldn't believe what they put me in charge of. And it's just, they hire people who are smart, who adapt. And frankly, we love Midwesterners.
Yeah, and one more point I want to put out there is, I was privileged enough to speak at a graduation at the Naval Boot Camp, Great Lakes, up here in Chicago. It's the nation's only boot camp for the Navy, and it absolutely just amazed me that you had these young men and women. They're kids to me. I feel so old, Jaime and Jean. They just seem like such kids to me, and they're graduating. And the amount of responsibility was almost unfathomable to me that they were going off and they were dealing with life or death situations. And this is, I guess, demonstrative of how the government is willing to trust that we can find the qualified individuals, the right individuals, and train them to do their job. And we'll train them to do it well enough to, again, going back to the GSA side of things or any of the other agencies outside the military, you want to suddenly jump into the private sector, you're going to be prepared. You will.
These next two questions are similar in nature, so I'll read them both together. I am an older graduate student. Is there anything that a person in their 40s needs to consider when applying for these jobs? And the other one is mid-career professional with years of administrative experience, considering pivoting into the federal government. What is the best strategy for getting your foot in the door?
I would say just get in. Don't be, I mean, I know people who say, I just want to work for the FBI and they only apply to the FBI for years. And then there's other people who do time, they spend time at IRS or they spend time at another agency and then they get in a year or two. So I would say look broadly at the whole federal government. I mean, I never would have thought, if someone had asked me, would you want to go work at an embassy? I wasn't even in my list of jobs. So I would say really crack it open. Where are you willing to live, first of all? And if you're willing to live outside of Chicago, put that. But for me, I like right now, or when I had my kids, I knew it was just Chicago, the Chicagoland area. And then what are you willing to make? Put the salary range and just kind of see what's out there. Because my job, was listed as a project manager, and I wasn't looking to be a project manager, right? I had an IT background, and it ended up, being this executive director of the Federal Executive Board, but sometimes they use antiquated position descriptions. And I've done things like, we coordinated NATO when they were here. When the Nobel Peace Summit was here with UIC, I helped Shirin Ebadi, the Iranian judge who has a Nobel laureate with things. I mean, there are just like crazy adventures right here in Chicago. And none of that was in my position description. So I would say don't be picky with your position description. Get in. And then we talk about this hallway reputation or your corridor reputation, because in Washington, all of the big buildings have these just very long hallways. Just get in to the federal family, get your foot in the door and start building that reputation. Because I have friends I can call on in every agency right now, just from having 20 years in and just 20 years of delivering. So just get your foot in the door and start delivering. And GSA is such a great place to do that. Because like I said, there's agencies you don't even know about, like Department of Justice Community Relations Service. I didn't know about that until I heard about them through GSA. So like, you're going to hear about all of the agencies, see what they do, and see which culture would match where you want to work. And I'm sorry, I have a hard stop at 3. So is there any questions specifically for me before I drop off?
Can you see them in the chat? I don't know if there's one in there that might be of interest to you.
No, but I'll be at your next session too, so you guys can come on. And maybe, Jaime, I'll do one just about the FEB at some point. Thank you all for joining. I love seeing your faces and just the enthusiasm to be a civil servant. It's been such a rewarding part of my life, and I highly recommend it. All right, thanks for letting me join, Brad. I appreciate it. Jaime, thank you.
All right.
Jaime, if I could just tag on to what Jean was just talking about.
Sure.
I know we've got individuals from across the Midwest here, but to put it again in perspective about the federal government, in Chicago alone, we are the largest employer, roughly 55 to 56,000 people. And when Jean was saying, get your foot in the door, which I could not agree with more, you may not be aware, but the FBI has dozens of mechanics. So you can suddenly apply for a job and start off as a mechanic at the FBI, and maybe you'll end up one day being a project manager at GSA. I mean, the possibilities, again, are limitless. It's a choose your own adventure once you get in the door.
So you have time for a few more questions?
Yeah, go right ahead.
One of the questions there, but it ties into what other people are thinking about, is how can you learn and network with different employers? Well, one, of course, is stay in touch with your career services office, but that just gives me some ideas that maybe we need a listserv through the Government College Relations Council. It's the organization that many of us are a part of. It's an organization I've been a part of for 20 years and that I'm currently president of. So this is giving me ideas of some things that we can do to get the word out. But I can tell you, we do work closely with other career services at other, DePaul, Loyola, Northeastern, Madison, Wisconsin, and we're trying to expand the number of schools. Certainly these events are open to anyone who's interested. So if you have friends at other schools or even alumni, they're certainly welcome to come. So feel free to share the links. We've had a number of these. We're going to have quite a few more this fall. It's going to be busy for us. But let them know, because there are some great opportunities. And part of our mission is to inform everyone of the different types, because I know people initially think CIA, FBI agents. No, they hire graphic designers, they hire accountants, they hire HR people, they hire law enforcement. I was even told by the CIA that they would hire somebody like me. and somebody said, "You're going to be a spy," I said, "No, an analyst." And so people don't think about that, right? Analyst positions. So there are a lot of opportunities, especially for some of us older individuals, right? I know there's a few in here. There are some really great roles, right? So what we're trying to do is get as much of this information out, so that people can start applying to it. Because, as Brad mentioned, there's some great opportunities. And I can tell you this, working at UIC for many years, they pay better than UIC does. So some of you probably already know that.
Yeah. And when it comes to and actually that's interesting, you should bring that up, as far as like age. The government doesn't discriminate when it comes to hiring, just like anywhere else. And I think that would just be a foregone conclusion, or assumed to be. The exceptions are with some of these federal agencies where they are law enforcement related. I believe that they have cutoffs around like 37 sometimes, if you want to be like a field agent, from what I understand. Don't quote me on that, but it's somewhere in that area. I do also want to point out that if you want to learn more, I mean, coming to events like these, I mean, you're stepping in the right direction. But don't be afraid to go on to LinkedIn, find someone in a specific government agency, and try to reach out to them. And if you can reach out to them directly through LinkedIn, great. If you're able to do that, I know sometimes the app or the website doesn't allow you to reach out to people unless you're connected. But if not, it's real easy to find out how people's email addresses are set up for each individual agency. And if you know who the person is, send them an email. And I guarantee you, 99% of the time, they're going to respond back if you're reaching out to them to say, hey, I'm curious about a career with GSA, or I'm curious about a career with HSI, which is the Homeland Security Investigations. It's really up to you to be proactive, because there are going to be other people that are going to be doing this. So it's just a question of whether or not you're going to take that step. Some friends of mine that are entrepreneurs, they say the same thing. Everybody has all the same ideas. They're all out there. The question is who actually is going to take a step to execute them.
And there's a few more questions, but I'm going to sum it up because I think one of our participants, Nina, really summed it up really well. There's a lot of questions with different degrees in different areas, but maybe you can discuss which are the most in-demand degrees for GSA. Most in demand.
Honestly, it goes back to what Gene was saying. I studied history, and I'm involved in real estate. Again, the degree is really, in the end, for GSA, it's going to show, obviously, the way that you think, and depending on the position, whether that's dealing with an analysis when it comes to architecture or setting up building security or things of that nature, it's really about who you are and how you think, and not exactly what that degree is. And that's one of the special things about GSA.
Well, here's a unique question. We'll just get to two more. This one is unique. I haven't seen this one. As a student athlete who is involved in some extracurriculars, does that benefit application candidates?
I'm not an HR professional, but I will say that there is going to be a human element, when it comes to evaluation of these applications. So when it comes to the federal government, for the most part, there is no real direct hiring. Everything goes through usajobs.gov. So that's going to go to DC to those HR professionals, and they're going to sort through those applications, and then they're going to fan those out to the agencies, and they'll take it from that point. So if you feel that there's something unique about your background, no matter what it is, and it'll make you stand out. And if it is, being an athlete and things of that nature, and it'll stick in that person's mind, it doesn't do any harm.
Okay, and one last question. Are internships open right now?
That is a very good question. I will have to get back to you on that. I just know that they are constantly taking applications as far as when those programs are taking place. Admittedly, I don't know.
Okay, well, I want to thank all the participants for being here, but I also want to thank our speakers, Brad, Gene, thank you so much. At this point, I'd ask you all to give them a big round of applause, but maybe you can give them a thumbs up or put the thank you in the chat. I'll clap for all of you. There you go.
And I'll tell you what, I'll put my email address in here if you have any more questions, but I do I do encourage you, if you do have questions as far as GSA careers, to reach out to Price, who is listed in the presentation. He is the absolute expert when it comes to applying for jobs. But thank you all. Really appreciate you taking time out. We hope to see you apply for jobs, especially with GSA. If not the federal government, we need people like you.